just talked about that. It was signed by Governor Corzine, and it has affected the town in Woodbury Heights, Gloucester County.
Excuse me, ma'am, does this have to do with the state plan?
Yes, it does. This
Okay.
is, when we're planning with, it has to do with affordable housing, which is part of the state plan. And this is what happened in Woodbury Heights, a 1 square mile town, an established town, and they happen to have a train going through their town, which is part of that light rail system from Camden to Glassboro. Now, this town was told they needed 3 housing centers for affordable housing. They agreed to build senior citizen housing near the train tracks. The builder got approval for this and then came in and asked to change it to affordable housing because we have enough senior citizen housing units in New Jersey. So now what the residents did not want, they ended up getting shoved down their throats anyway, which was affordable housing, a multi-unit complex right by the train tracks, which is going to affect their schools, their school tax. This is part of the state plan. This is why the state needs to get out of it and let the towns do what they know best. They know their own town, they know the area better, they know what they can afford, and this is how you have the towns competing with each other. They want people to move to their towns and bring their tax dollars with them. But when you try to micromanage everyone's life and monitor all human activity like the state plan does, and there's a state plan like this in every state around the country, this is what happens, unintended consequences. So I'm asking you just to toss the whole plan out.
What's that?
Called on John O'Rourke. That was in May.
Okay.
You just called John O'Rourke?
I did Jen Coffee.
I'm sorry.
On the other end of the back row. I'm Jennifer Coffey. I'm from the Stony Brook Millstone Watershed Association. I also live in Monmouth County. I work with about 26 municipalities in Mercer, Monmouth, Middlesex, Somerset, and Hunterdon. And I've been paying attention to and reading and evaluating state plans since about 2004. And since then, we haven't adopted a new one. So there's been many, many, many additions that I've read and evaluated and commented on and tried to pay attention to. And one question I have, and I know we're not doing questions, so I'll ask the audience instead of the moderators here, is I know, Jerry, you're on the State Planning Commission with your position that you have as Office of Planning Advocacy, but are there any other members of the State Planning Commission that are present here tonight?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. I just wanted to know that because my understanding is that that's the body that is going to move forward with adopting this plan if and when it gets to that position. So thank you for coming out tonight and being part of these hearings. State planning is hard. I'm just trying to do a time check here. It's hard because it requires some real leadership. It's hard because it requires difficult decisions. And it's hard because it requires commitment, it requires follow-through. New Jersey deserves strong planning. We deserve strong planning so that we can have a strong economy. We can take advantage of our geographic location, situated between New York and Philadelphia and Baltimore and D.C. is a very desirable place to be. We deserve strong planning so that we can take advantage and protect and utilize and well manage our environment. Environment is fundamentally critical to our quality of life here in New Jersey. It is fundamentally critical to our business here in New Jersey. It's the reason why Budweiser, why BMS, why Big Pharma came here to New Jersey, because they know they can get a good, clean, reliable water product for research and manufacturing. The environment is critical to the Garden State for our agriculture. If we don't have clean water to water our crops, we don't have food. We don't maintain our standing as one of the primary producers of blueberries, cranberries, peaches, apples, cherries. Our clean water is fundamental to one of our biggest economic booms, which is tourism. To birders, to canoers, to kayakers, to people on the beach. If we don't look to protect our clean water, if we don't look to ensure that we have enough clean water for everybody, for the business users, for the residents, for the tourists, then New Jersey's in a sad state. I would like to see in this plan something that says the state of New Jersey will ensure there is enough clean water for everybody. The language I see in here is too vague. And I've worked with you, Jerry, I've worked with Dan, I've worked with other administrations on the state plan. We haven't gotten anywhere. This is too vague. The language in here does not ensure we will have enough clean water for everybody. It doesn't ensure that we can go ahead and rebuild and revitalize our cities. Places like Newark have sold off their water allocation. They said, we don't want it, they sold it to the suburbs. You want to rebuild our cities? You're going to talk about fixing the water infrastructure. You're going to talk about fixing water lines that are made of wood. We're an old city here. You're going to talk about fixing stormwater lines that are made of terracotta. They've collapsed. They've fallen on themselves. We're getting bacteria in our waterways. We're getting, the gentlewoman in the second row there talked about there's saltwater intrusion in our waterways. There is. Why? Because we've paved over too much of our aquifer recharge areas. Here in Gloucester County, there are people drinking groundwater that is recharged up in central Jersey, where I come from, in Plainsboro and West Windsor. Why? Because the aquifer you drink from runs like this underground. So if you don't have planning that talks about protecting recharge areas where the rain coming down tonight can filter through the ground and recharge that groundwater source up in West Windsor and Plainsboro, you guys are going to run out of drinking water. That's why we need a state plan. It's not in here, guys. I'm sorry, but this cake isn't baked yet. It needs to go back in. It needs some more proofing. It needs another ingredient. It needs more time in the oven. It's not baked yet. So that's what I have to say tonight, and I thank everybody for coming out here tonight, for being part of the public process.
Thank you.
Except for adding my thanks to everybody for their time and hard work, I will see my
Nicole Lara, I'm representing the New Jersey Sierra Club. The New Jersey Sierra Club believes that in its current form, the state strategic plan will support sprawl and overdevelopment. For example, in the Delaware Bayshore area, one of the last open spaces of environmentally sensitive lands and farmlands in New Jersey. We are concerned this plan will be used to override environmental regulations as well as regional planning. Currently, there is a proposal to run sewer systems all over Gloucester and Salem counties and all the areas in between us to the river. We are concerned that this will be used to pave over farmland and important migratory bird areas. Under the plan, anything a half mile, say for instance from a college or highway interchange, can be considered a growth area. Cape May County College is in the middle of a park and can now be viewed as a growth area. Our concern is that the list is so long and vague, you can justify anything as a growth area. We believe by opening up the Delaware Bayshore area to overdevelopment and sprawl will hurt the environment and the water supply. There are serious concerns with the water supply like aquifer depletion and saltwater intrusion. By adding pavement and pumping water, this will cause a great decline in water, with farmers potentially only being left with salt water for their crops and residents with salt water to drink. Our other concerns that we have with the state strategic plan include that it repeals the water quality management plan rules. It overrides existing WQMP, promoting sprawl and overdevelopment in environmentally sensitive areas. It does this by stating that the WQMP hinders the ability of municipalities to have economic growth. It also eliminates the landscape project. The plan inappropriately attacks the science behind the award-winning and court-upheld DEP landscape project. This program identifies threatened and endangered species habitat and is the basis for many DEP regulations such as flood hazards and stream buffer rules. It also weakens environmental protections. Economic considerations are not supposed to trump environmental protections and public health. The plan states that all state agency plans and rules have to conform to the strategic plan's economic goals, even if this puts the agency in conflict with existing regulations to protect our environment. It also removes non-growth areas. The State Planning Act prioritizes protecting environmentally sensitive areas and targeting growth for redevelopment, while the State Strategic Plan turns virtually the entire state into a growth area. Planning areas 4 and 5 have been eliminated, and only land protected with Green Acres funding or through regional planning is not targeted for future growth. In conclusion, it blocks Green Acres funds. Under this plan, if a town, county, or the Green Acres program wanted to buy a piece of property for open space that was in a growth area, they would not be able to get Green Acres funds. The Green Acres plans and funding mechanism would be subservient to the state strategic plan. All in all, what the state needs is a strong state plan, and this is not a strong state plan. Changes need to be made, and we need to add a stronger environmental protections. Thank you.
Thank you. John Reiser.
I'm John Reiser. I just wanted to say, the plan itself, one of the things I got out of this strategic plan was an emphasis for state government entities to work together better. And I applaud you for that, because I think that a lot of people, which is probably evidenced whenever you talk to anyone about planning, they really don't understand the complexity and sometimes needlessly complex nature of planning, especially at the state level. Having state government work together more efficiently, more effectively is important, but also having buy-in from local community people is crucial, even if it's just a better form of outreach from your office as to how the state plan actually affects individuals. I also would like to echo what Craig Rayenkamp has stated in regards to the state plan map. I feel that by saying in very nebulous terms, we're going to have investment areas, growth areas, without having them depicted and delineated in some sort of static form. I should say static in the sense that it gets published for a state in time, but it should be dynamic and ever-changing for the needs of the people in the state of New Jersey. If we don't have the areas that we want to see succeed and the areas that we want to cherish and preserve outlined in some form, planning is continuously going to be this specter of government involvement in people's daily lives. It needs to be published, it needs to be clear, and it needs to be explained to people in common layman's terms. Michael Pollan is an author. He wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma. He starts off by saying, giving you probably the most concise dietary advice ever. Eat. Not too much, mostly plants. What I'd like to say to you at the state level, plan. Not too invasive, but completely egalitarian. Make it accessible to people, but don't make it invasive. Make it comprehensive, but don't make it seem, it would never, at least I don't think that it would ever get to the point that it would be truly sinister and invasive, but don't let it seem to be sinister and invasive. There needs to be a map where people can go and look at their house, how they are currently seen by the state government in terms of either receiving benefits or in standards of preservation. It needs to be depicted on a map. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Suzanne, I'm the South Jersey Land Water Trust, and I live in Franklin Township, and there as well. I think there's some good things with this state. I think it tries to focus attention in areas that need it, and it does identify what some of the problems have been. I think, however, that disposing of the existing state plan, in essence, is a mistake. I think that this should have been a way to improve the existing state plan. Kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There's been an awful lot learned from that state planning process. There's an awful lot of good stuff in it, and it's been evaluated. You put those documents up on your website. If you actually look at them, there's all kinds of comments, suggestions, and the like that have been explored in detail. I think they should have been used to improve the existing state plan rather than creating what is considered a new plan that to me is not a plan. It's a plan to plan. It basically is saying, we will outline these priorities, we will get Green Acres to devise these criteria, we will do this. Until you have them, it's not a plan, because you really can't respond to it very effectively. I think also that land use is essential in a state plan. I think dropping land use just because it's difficult and it's actually conducted on the municipal level is a really bad idea, because municipalities, while they may have the authority to make decisions about land use, can't really plan it for the state. They can only plan for their own community. They do need to be listened to. Their plans need to be incorporated, but they can't have a larger vision for the region. They can't really identify problems that are much beyond their borders, or places that should have investment or should have protection. Counties can't really do it either, because a lot of areas overlap county boundaries. They can do it better than municipalities perhaps, but I think the state should be looking at land use. It never was regulating it. It never had the authority to do it, but the guidance that the state plan offered, I think was quite valuable. And I think getting rid of the designated planning areas puts everybody out in Nowheresville. We just no longer know how to proceed. It's too radical a change without the specificity that's needed to go with it. If you're going to replace one system with another, you need to be much more detailed about the specifics, which is one of the main problems that I have with the plan, with the strategic plan. Part of the difficulty with cross-acceptance, because I didn't think it was that terrible a process, personally. But it included a lot of people. And if you look at all the things the county summarized and put together for you, it actually ended up with very specific recommendations. But part of the problem had to do with this conflict between state agencies and state regulations. I really think. I thought that was classic in Salem, where you had areas designated as planning area 4, or that were being suggested to be pulled out of planning area 2 or 3 at that time, that were also not in the ADA, the Ag Development Area, and therefore a farmer had no choices. They couldn't sell their land really if they were following the guidelines of the state plan, or the municipality was, and they couldn't also preserve their land because they weren't in the Ag Development Area, which, by the way, I think Ag Development Areas are ridiculous. I think all farmland should be in an Ag Development Area, period. If a farmer wants to preserve, and if the town agrees, and regardless of where it is, I think that's fine. The state may prioritize what it wants to put the money out for to clusters, which they do in planning and Senate grants now on both the county and municipal level and at the SAPC. But I don't see why we have to limit Ag Development Areas to 90% of all the farms. Because you leave out a lot of farms that are valuable, like the ones in Carneys Point, Oldman's Township, and Salem, as an example. Another feature I like about the state strategic plan is things like trying to utilize the advice